This is an overview of Module 3 in ENG 123. This week we will be conducting deeper research. We're basically going to dive into the research that we'll use for our persuasive essay, and we will complete the writing plan. So in completing the writing plan, we are really going into a couple of areas. Our objectives are to learn to evaluate sources and to develop the plan to assist in the essay. We want to look at some stylistic approaches. We're going to incorporate appropriate research. So in choosing the sources, you want to be sure that you choose reliable sources that are relevant. And then we will continue to utilize those sources by learning how to integrate them into our essays. So with that in mind, we're going to go into the learning module. And the first thing you'll do is you'll have some reading and some information on how to evaluate the sources. The first graded activity is a series of evaluations based on the CRAPO, CRAAPO. And the CRAPO method is really important. It asks 5 questions about each source. For your annotated notes or bibliography, you're going to have 3 sources, and you should be able to answer all these questions on each source. Currency, when was it published? Relevance, how is it relevant to your question, to your thesis? Accuracy, how accurate is the information peer reviewed? What gives this source accurate information? And authority deals with who's the author, who's publishing it. If it's the Harvard Business School, that's a pretty solid authority. And then when we talk about purpose and objective, we're talking about why is this source, why did the author write this? If it's for an academic journal or for a society or a journal that uses information to further the field, then that's usually pretty that's pretty uh, reliable. It's pretty credible. If they're trying to convince you of something, then it's less reliable. So you will complete this sheet for all 3 of your sources. And then you will use this sheet to help you complete the annotating your sources. And in the annotating sources, it says select 3. One source should be the opposing viewpoint. A lot of times students feel like they have to talk about the opposing viewpoint for each source, but no, you have 2 sources that support your argument and 1 source that is opposed to your argument. And then you will identify the source by author, title, and database. And often it is a good way to do that is to simply use your MLA or your APA. You can see here how someone has used the APA method to identify the source, talks about what the source does, how it supports its argument, does it do a good job, and then it continues on to talk about the reliability. So you want to answer all those questions. You want to identify the source fully, summarize it, explain why the source is credible. And you can include that CRAPO score in your explanation. And then explain how it supports one of your key points, very important, or the opposing point. From there, we're going on to take a closer look at the argument and style, and then also our writing plan itself. Now, note the writing plan is very similar to the writing notes. Many of you did a very good job with that, and you may need to just have some revisions, but pay attention to the fact that there are additional questions included in the writing plan. So here are the points that we are going to look at in the writing plan, and here are the actual order that you should present them. Describe the argument, explain how it relates to your major, make sure that it's debatable, identify the audience, the challenges that you'll see, establish a goal. And the goal should be if you're writing about carbon footprints and the destruction of the earth based on global warming, then your goal should be tied to that. For example, your goal might be to convince people to reduce their carbon footprint. 3 key points, they're like your thesis. The reason the reason people need to be concerned about the carbon footprint is one, we are experiencing torrential weather, unbelievable severe weather conditions based on global warming. We are losing our coasts, our waters are rising, and we are losing uh, diversity in our wildlife, which has an effect on the change of the whole food chain. So those are 3 reasons. Each reason would have to have a source to support it. Next, it asks that you align those sources and then explain how you will integrate them into the essay. Tell us where you will put the sources physically into the essay. And then finally, how will you use the feedback? You've received feedback from me on your writing notes. So hopefully you will talk about whether it was helpful, if there was something that you didn't do or something that you didn't need. If you've submitted your paper late and you haven't gotten the feedback and you want to move on, then just mention that here. Note the rubric for this assignment. It shows that you have to describe the argument, including how it's derived from your major, identify the audience and challenges, the goal we talked about, the 3 points, how those 3 points align, at least 2 of them, to sources you've chosen. Where will you put those sources in the essay, the feedback, and then, of course, the articulation of response. Now, I want to just share one other thing here, and that is uh, a sample which I will be posting along with this essay, with this video. This is a sample of the writing notes, and it clearly kind of calls out some of the areas that you should be concerned with. So that's the writing plan. I want to emphasize, please remember that when you finish the writing plan and the annotated notes next week, you'll be sharing those in your discussion in week 4. So you'll do a peer review. So it's important to complete this and to post it next week. That's week 3 overview. I hope everyone's having a great week. If you have any questions, please contact me.